Greetings, friends of Ludus. I'm Sergio Bravo, and today we bring you Ludnews, or in other words, fresh news about Ludus. New features, improvements, updates. Today we want to show you the new simulation of working at heights in the electrical sector, where we'll access an electrical tower using the appropriate fault protection system. Do you want to see it? Let's get my headset on. When accessing the simulation of work at height in the electrical sector, we will see a panel in which we can configure the exercise by pointing through any of the controls and selecting the options by pressing the front trigger button. On the panel, there is an X at the top of the screen that will allow us to exit the simulation, the training block of access to electrical support, and the exercise of access to the tower by using the double anchor linear. Below we have the options to activate or deactivate the guided mode. The difference between guided and unguided mode is that in guided mode we will be given indications on the steps to follow for the application of the procedure, and in non-guided mode these indications will not appear. The guided mode is ideal for the initial acquisition of knowledge, since the simulation will show us in an audiovisual way and step by step the actions that we must perform to act correctly. The unguided mode is often used to assess whether students have the necessary knowledge to perform the procedure correctly and to detect possible failures and errors that could be made in a real situation. At the bottom left, we have a button that, when clicked, allows us to view a tutorial in which we are explained what the simulation consists of and useful tips for carrying out the exercises. Before starting the exercise, you can practice the movement in the room where you are, using the joystick of any of the controls. To move, press or push forward and hold the joystick of any of the controllers so that a light indication appears. We will point towards the space we want to move to and release the joystick to move there. Once the movement has been practiced, we will configure the guided mode and access the simulation by pressing the Start Exercise button. When we start the simulation, we will appear in front of an area with personal protective equipment that will help us safely access the electrical tower on our left. First, they tell us that we must access the top of the tower using some of the equipment present. In the guided mode, the appropriate equipment lights up green. During the placement of the equipment, it is recommended to explain the different parts of the equipment and their critical points of inspection. Next, we must check and equip the correct helmet, which is the yellow one since it has a chin strap. To grab it, we will use the front trigger button, and after checking its correct marking and status, we will equip it by pressing the same button. Then, we are instructed to check and equip the fall arrest harness. After checking its marking and critical parts, they tell us to do the same with the fastening element, which will allow us to hold on the structure to rest or carry out work with our hands free. We will place it on one of the side rings of the belt, and then we will check and place one of the double fall arrest anchor lines present on the table. The difference between them is that one of them has a screw carabiner that must be threaded manually, and the other has an automatic carabiner, so it does not require an additional closing action. We will place it on the chest or dorsal ring, and we will close the carabiner thread if applicable. Now we will be directed towards the luminous point located at the base of the tower to begin the ascent. To do this, we will grab the hooks that we have placed on the harness at chest height and place them on the angular profiles of the structure, so that they are connected as high as possible to reduce a potential fall. Once both hooks have been placed on the structure, we can start the climb by holding on to the profiles using the front trigger button and the indicated points, and marking the gesture of climbing by pulling the angle downwards. When the hooks are approximately at chest height, we will raise them again to minimize the distance of a possible fall, and we will repeat the process until we reach the highest part of the tower. It is important to be careful both on the ascent and especially on the descent that the ropes do not get tangled up in the legs. At all times, we will have a hook connected to the structure, and as preference, we will place them at different anchor points so that they are not leveraged or in positions that are not favorable for stopping the fall. Once at the top, we will place the two anchor lines, preferably at different anchor points, and we will position ourselves using the fastening device. To do this, we will grab it using the trigger button and connect it to the structure by pressing the same button. To continue, we will remove the fastening element and go down, making the opposite gesture to the one of the climb, holding onto the structure. To keep the anchor lines as high as possible during the descent, we will first lower ourselves and extend our arm to place the hooks at approximately chest height. We will repeat the process until we reach the base of the tower. Once down, we will be able to identify the person who has done it if this option was previously activated on the main screen of the access to the simulations. Once identified, if applicable, we will see a results screen in which we will be shown the time we have spent in carrying out the exercise, the mistakes made, an observation about them, if any, a button that will allow us to restart the exercise, and another that will allow us to exit it. During guided mode, you can take advantage of it to perform some additional explanations, such as the need for a preventive resource for this type of work and how it could act in case of emergency, that gloves are necessary to avoid cuts on the hands with burrs on the profiles, if the position of the hook when connecting it is correct, as it could be connected in a way that reduces its resistance. What would happen if you let go of both hands of the structure? What is the difference in a fall if you anchor yourself from the dorsal and pectoral rings? Why anchoring to the belly ring is wrong? How a rescue could be carried out in the event of an accident? That some harnesses need to be closed with a carabiner on the chest ring if we anchor the double hook on the dorsal ring. That if we place the two hooks at the same anchor point, it is less safe since you only depend on one structural anchor instead of two. What is the fall factor and how it can influence it, or why the double hook includes an energy absorber. In this case, we will exit the exercise to make a new configuration. Now we will configure the unguided mode that is usually used to evaluate users, check that people who already have experience do not make mistakes, or explain typical security failures that are usually made during this type of work, such as choose a double lanyard with a screw carabiner so that they forget to close it, with the consequent loss of resistance that entails and the possibility of it opening. Choose a helmet without a chin strap, which in the event of a fall could fall and not protect the worker's head against blows. Chain one carabiner with another, which is usually not recommended except for certain specific carabiners. Connect the double hook on the harness's ventral ring, which is not a ring designed to arrest falls. Raising or descending from the support by placing the hooks connected below chest height, which would considerably increase the fall factor and possible injuries in the event of a fall. Do not put on the restraint device if you stop during the ascent or descent to rest or are going to carry out work. Once up to carry out the work, when the fastening or positioning system is connected, remove the double rope and depend only on a system that is not useful for stopping falls. We encourage you to try different dynamics with this simulation, and remember that Ludus offers support, guides and videos to help you implement our technology. We hope you found this tutorial useful. How was it? Did you find this content interesting? Well, if you'd like to expand your knowledge, visit our blog where we cover topics related to training, safety, health, technology and much more. And to stay up to date on all the latest news, check out our news page and follow us on social media. We'll leave the links below. Best regards and see you next time!